Welcome to my channel, The Binge Eating Therapist. I'm Sarah, former binge eater turned psychotherapist, and today I want to talk to you about a comment that someone left on my channel. I'll just read it to you. It goes like this. But when I accept myself, I also accept the binge eating. I can't see how that helps. I'm happiest when I let myself binge without guilt. Please help. So there's two parts to this really. The first part, we're talking about acceptance. And I guess there's that idea that if we accept something, that means we approve of it. Or if we accept something, that means it won't change. But actually how we think about self-acceptance in the personal development and recovery world is that self-acceptance frees up space and energy to change. Because when we don't accept ourselves, we're in a constant battle with ourselves. And when we're in that fight mode, we are the most primal, reactive versions of ourselves. So the idea behind self-acceptance is that it calms all our parts down because we have lots of different parts to us. When we reject parts of ourselves, we split, and then those parts fight for control. Now the idea of accepting self means accepting binge eating. That's a yes and no. So yes, there is accepting binge eating, as in accepting that this behavior is something that is happening. Because how many times have you gone, okay, you've had a binge and you're like, okay, I'm just going to forget about that. I'm just going to push it out of my head and do better tomorrow. It's like this, it's not quite denial, but it's like, I don't want to look at it. There's too much shame over there. I can't bear it. So I'm going to distract myself, or I'm just going to focus on the next eating plan or how I'm going to fix it or balance it out. When we don't accept all these parts, we exacerbate shame, and shame makes us want to run away. Shame increases compulsivity and the desire to distract and avoid being in our own minds at all costs. So whilst it might be a case of you're accepting that at the moment binge eating seems to be happening, there's a difference between acceptance and approval. So just because I may be practicing accepting all different parts of myself doesn't mean I always approve of my behaviors or my choices or even my thoughts sometimes. But the other conflation is that approval is getting mixed up with love and worthiness, and this begins very young. Let's go back to when you were a child. There would have been times when what you did or didn't do was unacceptable to your parents or your caregivers, and chances are they let you know about it. Maybe they got angry, maybe they gave you the silent treatment, maybe you were punished in some way. The problem is that how unacceptable behavior is communicated to us very young then affects how we receive it and what we believe about ourselves. So many of us as kids, we felt like it wasn't just this thing that we did that was unacceptable. In the moment, we felt so unacceptable because parents lose their cool. And maybe you're a parent yourself, but parents, they have this idea of what their kids should be. And when you fit that approval, you've got their approval, but when you don't, you've got their disapproval. So it feels like love being given and taken away, depending on whether we are meeting what somebody else thinks we should be. Now this sounds more complicated when I talk about it like this, but it was a felt sense when you're younger, and it leaves this emotional injury so that most of us then go through life with a sense of feeling like we're just not, something about us that's not good enough, or we're not worthy, or we need to seek approval through our appearance or through our productivity or our achievements. Because if we get approval from the world, then maybe we're lovable and worthy. And so self-acceptance brings with it this recognition of just inherent worth. So you can have self-acceptance for all the different parts of you, including the part that binges, and still go, but this is something I need to address. This is something that's not okay with me. But the person who posted the comment believes that binge eating makes them happy, that they are their happiest if they can just binge eat without guilt. And I really want to question that word happy. Because if they're genuinely happy, go do that, go do you. But chances are there's a conflict there. There's a conflict, otherwise they wouldn't be watching my content and commenting and asking for help with this. So the first question I'd ask about this is it happiness or is it relief? Because binge eating can just feel like this relief, can't it, from inner conflict, from shame, from just even having to be present in the moment. It feels like this ultimate freedom sometimes, this rebellion. There's so much in it that just is like, until you come out the other side, right? But it could be that there's a mistaking of relief from pain as being happiness, and they're not the same thing. If we address the pain, we won't need the pain relief. The second question I ask, because this might not resonate with the original poster or even with you, is it happiness or is it pleasure? And pleasure is not a bad thing, but there's a type of pleasure or a type of cycle sometimes with pleasure where it feels like we're in this compulsive chasing of it. It's like a compulsive pursuit of pleasure that is actually like a trap that causes more pain in the long run. Eating can give you this big hit of endorphins and all these reward neurotransmitters and can feel really good. Like eating is designed to feel good. And then humans have designed foods to try to make us feel even better. But then we chase that feeling and often get the sense of sort of diminishing returns and like it's not us even choosing it anymore. I tell you how to know if it's that kind of pleasure because it never really gets satisfied. Now let's link this with the acceptance piece. If you're in a fight, any kind of fight, you are at your most primal, reactive version of yourself. You're in survival mode. You are not thinking clearly. No one's thinking clearly in a fight. Think of the last big argument that you had with somebody. And yet anything that is not self-acceptance is some kind of internal fight going on between parts. Here's the kicker. When we accept our parts, those parts then start to reveal themselves. Because when there's shame and you think they shouldn't be there, or they shouldn't be the way they are, it's impossible to listen to what they have to say. And also, they won't speak to you. Think about how this works with another human being, right? If you go into a conflict just looking to dominate the other person, you've got no interest in their side of things or why they do the things the way they do, you are never going to resolve the conflict. So self-acceptance transforms the relationship we have with ourselves. It reduces the need for different parts of us to battle for control. So therefore we can think more clearly. We can really check in with ourselves. And from that calmer, clearer, more cohesive whole state, then asking at that point, is binge eating what I want for myself? And answering it from there. Because this person is trying to imagine from their current conflict what the outcome of self-acceptance is going to be. And you don't know until you've tried it. Sometimes people will say to me, if weight wasn't an issue, I wouldn't stop binging. If I could binge and never gain weight, or that wasn't an issue, or my health wasn't affected by it, why on earth would I stop? And there's one word that comes into my head when I hear that question, and it's simply freedom. Because binging is not just, eating a bit too much. Binging is compulsive. If this is your problem, you are obsessed with food. You're thinking about food constantly. My whole world revolved around what I wasn't eating, was I binging, was I not binging, what was going on with my weight. And we're so focused on the behavior, it's like stopping this binge eating behavior. But what you're getting with the stopping of the behavior is freedom from food obsession, mental freedom and space to live your life. That is only going to feel like a viable option for you if you realize that this approval chasing is never going to get you where you want to go. Now, if you're watching this video around about the time of its release, I'm going to go live on YouTube on New Year's Eve at 5 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, so that's the UK time, so you could Google where that is. Come and join me live on YouTube. I'm just going to do a Q&A for the new year, so any questions you might have about binge eating recovery, come hang out with me for an hour or so on New Year's Eve on YouTube. If you are open to the idea of practicing self-acceptance, I have a guided meditation which I will link to at the end of this video. And thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you on New Year's Eve at the live.